Hello, and welcome to Own Your Peace. I'm your host, Andy Thewison, and today I want to start with a question. The question is, have you ever caught yourself saying, that's just the way I am? What if that's the belief that is actually keeping you stuck? And that's the question I really want to dive into in this episode. This is a concept that you'll hear within the self help industry of this concept of self identity or the concept of identity in and of itself. Let's unpack it a little bit in this episode because I really do think it is a key that can really unlock your next level life. Let's take identity. It can be one of two things for you. It can be a cage that keeps you stuck, or it can be this tool that you can use to step into your next level life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm so excited about this because this is something I think is underrated and isn't talked about enough. So let's talk about what identity even is. So there's different ways of looking at identity. We can look at the fact that we're a mother, we're a daughter, we're a sister, we're a friend. Those are all identities. Or there can be these limiting belief identities that we've placed upon ourselves. I'm shy, or I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. All these things that we really attribute to who we are. And a lot of times, those things, obviously, we're a mother if we're a mother, but like those things that are self imposed or that were imposed upon us by well meaning adults within our lives, especially in our earlier years, can actually be cages that keep us stuck. Because I will tell you this again and again, a belief is just a thought you kept thinking. And that's what a belief can become. And a belief can really transcend into a sense of identity. And that is one thing that we can do to cage ourselves, but we can also use the same concept and use it to step into higher versions of ourselves. I want you to think about this. I want you to, if you are able to do this now, or when you're in a quiet space reflecting later, I want you to take a piece of paper out and I want to put your name in the middle of that paper. And then I want you to, outside of that paper, maybe circle your name or circle me, whatever feels right for you. And I want you to think about all the identities that have been placed upon you throughout your whole life. Maybe someone when you were younger said that you were dumb or that you weren't smart enough or you were quiet. I always think about it this way when I think about identities. I almost feel like throughout our lifetimes, we're walking through life and people are putting coats and hats and all kinds of things upon us. And we willingly accept them without a second thought. And because people have said that about us, we believe it to be true. So we move through our life and people have said these things, or we've said these things to ourselves and we've taken them as gospel. And now they have truly been, thought so many times. They have become a belief and then they have become a part of our identity. There we go. So this is a really cool practice for you. As you're sitting there thinking about all these labels, these identities that have been placed upon you, some of them will be great. There'll be times that you were told that you were smart or that you were gifted or that you had talents. And those are really great identities to be gifted with throughout your lifetime. If you had more critical parents, maybe you had more critical self limiting beliefs placed upon you. Some of us have parents who just tell us all the things that we think we're unstoppable. And then we have other parents that are really critical and they impose a lot of their limiting beliefs upon us. So in this exercise, just maybe put a timer 3, 5 minutes and just allow your pen to flow. No judgment. Don't think about correcting your grammar. Just sit with all these identities that have coming up. And I want you to take a minute when you're done and look at these. And I want you to really feel into the energy of each of these things. Some of these can be positive, some of them can be negative, and really feel into which of these are actually true. Are you really shy? Are you really dumb? Probably not. Think about each of these things. And I want you to star the ones that you actually feel are true and the ones that are really just limiting beliefs or something that someone said to you in an offhanded comment that you took as truth. Take your Sharpie and run a line through those and allow you to really feel into how these labels and these identities that have been placed upon you throughout your lifetime have really shaped who you are to this point. Here's the exciting thing about identities. We can shift our identity. We can shift how we show up in the world because we get to choose how we do so. And that is the most exciting thing about the work that I do. Because a lot of times, this is the shadow side of human design and astrology. And I do get kind of upset about this. And it kind of gives me the ick. We think of these different placements on our chart or these different parts of human design, and they can be one of two things. They can be limiting, where you feel limited by that placement, or you feel excited by that placement. But you get to choose how you see it. So the other day I was scrolling TikTok and there was an astrologer on there that's was going over the eighth house and like kind of almost like the negative energy that you attract with that eighth house placement. And this particular is was more in particular if you had planets within your eighth house. So of course I'm curious about this person's perspective. So I listened. And I have an eighth house son, and he went into the eighth house son. It was like, oh, people hate your personality. They don't want you to shine. They get annoyed by your shining. Like you're going to piss people off when you shine. And I'm like, okay. And I could have done one of two things. I could have been like, oh, like that's true. Or I can be like, well, I might piss some people off. That's fine. I'm going to shine anyway. And so that's the thing. I want you to be very careful when you're on TikTok, when you're on Instagram, and you're seeing these astrologers put labels on you. At the end of the day, I want you to go back to your own self, onto your own intuition. And I want you to feel into, is that true? And feel into the energy that you receive with that. And do not pick up anything if it doesn't feel good to you. Your body is not going to lie. If you read something, all of a sudden you're constriction and you're tight and you're feeling like this, a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of dread, and let it go. I've coached people over the years where they had met with an astrologer and they said that they were really going to be tested and things were going to be hard and it's going to be a really trying time for them. Okay, that might be true. But how are you going to take that bit of information and be like, okay, I might be in a trying time, but I can still own my sovereignty, own my own free will. And yeah, things might take a little bit more effort during this time frame, if that's even true. Again, take it back to yourself. Does that feel true? Trust that you are the creator, director, author of your own life. And you can take that information and you can make it a focus where you're feeding energy into it. And all of a sudden, everything's going to become a self fulfilling prophecy. Or you can be like, okay, I'm not going to let that hold me back. I'm going to understand and acknowledge that that might be an aspect, but I have these other aspects over here that are, there's so much to astrology. There's so many layers. So sometimes that people will look at like one little transit, but over here they have a transit that's like completely, changing the game, or there's something that's offsetting it. So it can be really complicated. So if you feel like you've gotten limiting information, take a beat, ground back into your heart, into your soul, and really be like, am I going to let this identity be what navigates this story for me for the next time frame? Or I'm going to be like, it is what it is. I get to choose how I'm creating my life for myself. And I am the writer director of my life. And yeah, that might be like one little plot line, but I can use that plot line to be like, I transcended, I moved above. I worked and things worked out for me. So you get to choose how these things play out. I love astrology. I love human design, but never use them as an excuse or a crutch in your life to hold you back. There are two very distinct types of astrologers and human design readers in the world. There are those who are very, I would say within the human design world, there's those that are a little bit more dogmatic. They're more traditionalist. When you read information and descriptions by the older school of thought, there is this energy of dogmatism. There's this energy of limitation, in my personal opinion. You might read them and they just light you up. So trust that more than what I'm saying right now. But for me, energetically, when I have studied the older school of thought, when I have studied what other human design readers and thought leaders have said within that older realm, if it just feels icky to me. Like, I don't like it. This is what I do for a living. But then there's this new school of thought where we're using these tools as an up leveling of what's possible for us. And it feels expansive. It feels light. It feels like, oh my goodness, I have all these tools to use. Yeah, there's the shadow sides, and we need to be aware of those. But when we lean into the gift, not the shadow, huge shifts can be made. And that is very much the school of thought that I am in. And the work that I do and what I teach is very much in this newer creation of human design, this new reiteration of human design. So if you've been turned off by human design, I don't know if that's you, if you're listening to my podcast, you might be like, I loved it no matter what. But if you've like read things and felt icky or turned off by it, that might be the explanation right there. Because again, it's two very, very distinct energy frequencies within those different worlds. So keep that in mind as you're studying. It's such an exciting study. And if you're line one like me, where we just like absorb and read all the things, it can be tricky to navigate. So immediately, if you're starting to get a lower frequency energy or a vibe from something, just move on. It obviously is not resonating with your soul, and put that identity down. So I bring that up when we're talking about identity is I don't want you to identify with things that feel limiting to you. If you're leaning into a belief that you're shy, and that's actually, in fact, who you are not. You actually are very outgoing and have just been conditioned to be shy. Raising my hand over here for most of my life, everyone was like, you're so quiet. You're so shy. You hide behind the camera. Well, yeah, I did because I had a lot of insecurity. I didn't feel safe to be seen. But as I unmask that past identity for myself, I'm stepping into what I know is meant to be huge visibility, where I am meant to be seen. I am meant to put myself out there and to not be shy. I'm actually by nature not a shy person. But again, those conditions were placed upon me. So keep that in mind. These can be cages that we place upon ourselves when it comes to identity. So go back through and look at the paper again and see where you've caged yourself and start avoiding those things. Let's talk about identity as a growth catalyst now. So we know how identities can be a cage. They can be these identities, these things that have been placed upon us throughout our entire lifetime. It can be just offhanded comments that people have told us, but they don't need to weigh you down anymore. You, again, get to choose. Now we move into how to use identity as a catalyst for growth. So if we can think a thought for it to become a belief and then it becomes part of our identity in the negative sense, we can do the same thing to change how we perceive ourselves. So we can look at things and be like, you know what? I might believe right now that I'm a terrible public speaker, that I'm terrified of being a public speaker. I'm going to talk about myself here now. I could change that. I could shift that. I could be like, I'm a fantastic public speaker. People can feel my passion when I speak. I'm excited when I speak. I use a lot of hand motions when I speak. I have a lot of passion and personality when I speak. Am I the traditional public speaker who's very polished? Absolutely not. That's okay. But do I have a lot of passion and charisma when I speak? Because I'm like so excited about what I'm talking about? 1,000%. That's what I'm going to lean into. I'm going to lean into that identity and I'm going to step into that. I'm going to shift that identity about myself. Think about the people in your life, the ones that have gone vegetarian or vegan, or they're now a runner, or they've made these little lifestyle changes, their whole identity. It just shows us that when we identify with some aspect of our life and we allow it to become a personality trait, we can shift, we can change. If you're like the person's like, oh, I'm a runner, and you start to have that be part of your personality and part of your identity, you're a runner, right? It changes. We see it all the time. For a long time, I spent a whole year being a vegetarian. I tried vegan for a month and I could not do it longer than a month. It was very hard. But I was vegetarian for a whole year and I had that become my identity. I did blog posts about being a vegetarian. I did vegetarian recipes. Like I was a vegetarian. But what I didn't do was listen to my body. And my body was like, that was actually the most inflamed my body has ever been. My body was so out of whack. I gained more weight when I was a vegetarian than any other time period in my life. And if you're a vegetarian and it works for you, bless you. Your body's so different. And I was tired all the time. So I had to like take that back and like humble myself and be like, actually, my body needs me. I had to do it slowly because when I did, I think I tried to eat like a bigger piece of meat the first time and I like actually made me sick. But the more I was just like, it's okay to eat meat. That's not my identity. I can, do meatless Mondays. I could, and I'll do both. And I had more balance in my life. I started to feel better. My health improved because for my body needed meat at that point in my life. So really, above all, listen to your body, listen to your soul, what your soul needs, and trust it. And it just shows you how much identifying with a concept and having it become part of your identity, even if it's something as, as minute as becoming a vegetarian. I've done this with several things throughout my lifetime. I was keto for a little while. I was a boxer for a while. I definitely was a runner. I did marathons. At the end of the day, did any of those ideas really help me on a soul level, or were they truly who I was on a soul level? Probably not. But it showed me that we are very tenacious. And when we start to build a personality for ourselves and we start to identify with it, we can shift, we can change, we can grow differently when we use the gift of identity. We become. And when we're trying to create something new for ourselves that we've never done before, we have to identify with that concept of it. We don't manifest who we are. We don't manifest what we want. We manifest what we are. So if you're wanting to be a business owner or if you're wanting to become wealthy and attract wealth and abundance into your situation, into your life experience, then you have to identify as a rich person. You have to start believing and thinking the way a rich person does. If you want to grow a business, you need to start identifying as a business owner. You need to start acting like a business owner. That's why we get to that, when people say act as if, fake it until you make it, fake until you are. And that's where this really cool concept of self identity, where it once caged us, sets us free, where we have this ability to shift and change who we are by identifying with a version of ourselves that we would like to create. So the more you step into, now here's another practice for you. Now take out another piece of paper, put future self or future Andy or your name, insert your name here, and start, crafting versions of yourselves that you want to create. So you want to become an abundant person. You want to become a business person. You want to be a spiritually aligned person. You want to, open up your spiritual gifts. You want to open a nonprofit. You want to be an influencer. Whatever it is, write down those identities you want to craft and create for yourself. Obviously, check in with that soul. Is this something your soul that is in alignment with your soul and what your soul wants to create? And then start to become who you want to become by acting as if. Becoming, let that identity start to sink in. Keep thinking the thoughts that will then become the beliefs that then becomes who you are and what you manifest into your experience. This concept of belief, of identity is so magical, and it's something we're not talking about enough. If you believe that money is hard to come by and you're a poor person and you're always having bad luck when it comes to money, is that what you're creating for yourself? You become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you shift that, I always say, look at the opposite. If this is what your current reality is, and this is your current belief system, what's the opposite? Flip it. So you have to start believing and thinking the thoughts, money comes to me easily. I attract money easily. And you start building that identity, that persona, so that you're starting to shift and manifest into this version of yourself. You're going to have to think it. You're going to have to think it before you go to bed because, remember we've talked about that subconscious window before you go into bed, like saying those thoughts as you're falling asleep. Those are the things that you can do. So these are tools and practices that you can do to start manifesting and stepping into these different variations of yourself. So this is, we did these paper routines, but here's another way to do it. If you don't want to do the whole web map thing, you can be, who am I? And write out all the things you think you are. Another flip here would be like, who am I becoming? Who do I want to become for myself? Another variation of this very same tool and technique to step into this. Start giving yourself pep talks as this new identity for yourself. Really feel into it. These are things that you can do to tie into this becoming of who you want to craft and create for yourself. At the end of the day, you are like I will say this a million times over and over again, you are the writer, director, creator of your own life. So if you don't like where you are right now and you're feeling stuck, you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling no passion for life, then good news is you can change it. You can choose different for yourself. There are tools like human design and astrology that yes, they can be limiting in some ways if you allow them, but they also can show you what's possible for yourself. They can remind you of your soul's path, of your soul's blueprint. I see them as stepping stones. I do not see them as an albatross around my neck, but I choose to see things differently. Let's call me an optimist astrologer and human design reader. I think on a completely different playing field than some of my contemporaries, and that's okay. There's place for both of us. There's people who are going to need that, and that's where they are in their life. Totally fine. But if you're ready to level up, if you're ready to remember why the heck your soul came here, I'm your gal. That's the kind of work that I do because I'm also tapping into your guidance. Tapping into your team, if you will. I could read two exact same human design charts, but the information that comes through each of those readings will look and feel totally different because of the guidance I'm getting through my intuitive hits. I'll explain things in different ways. Some of the times I'm like, oh, I never would have thought it that way, but this person needed to hear it that way. And I'm surprised by what I say, which is kind of fun thing to experience in the work that I do. And I'm always excited by it. So if you're ready to see things differently, or if you need help seeing things differently, hopefully I gave you enough tools to really start using this concept to shift and change your life. That's my whole purpose. And what I do is, you know, I was reading something the other day. They're like, you need to feel clear on what your passion is. What is your purpose? Why are you here? And my passion at the end of the day, I'm not going to say it's human design. I'm not going to tell you it's astrology. Yes, I love those things and I will talk about them all day long. But my true passion is waking up the soul within you and showing you what's possible for yourself, helping you see yourself in a completely new light and stepping into a higher version of yourself where you're lit up and alive with your life. That is what keeps me up at night. That's what I'm excited about. And I see these as just tools to help unlock those things for you. If that's something that you are like, oh, I really need that in my life, I'm here. I would love to be your guide, whether that be with just a reading or with that being my soul purpose coaching, where we meet monthly and we create a business plan for your month to month business or your month to month life. Or when we go really deep with my one on one coaching packages where we work together for an extended amount of time and we really just we tackle all the limiting beliefs. We really are seeing a lot of things and working through things, but also being very tactical and practical of what you're building for yourself. Those are kind of the different ways to work with me. And I love all these things. That's why I'm here. That's the passion that I have in this life. I want you to see yourself differently. I want you to see what's possible for yourself. That's where my true passion lies. And I hope this gave you a reframe about identity. Instead of seeing it as a cage, see it as the key that unlocks it all. Much love, and I will see you next week.